For our independent task, we will read a text about a group of teens who experiment with giving up their phones for 48 whole hours. As we read, I want us to keep in mind two questions for this video. The two questions that we are going to focus on in this video to help get you started is question number 1 and question number 2. Question number 1 says, what effect might too much texting have on student relationships? So as I'm thinking aloud about this question, I know that as I read, I need to focus on the effect that texting can have on a student's relationships. So when we say relationships, what could that mean? Could that mean relationships with your family, with peers, or it could be relationships with friends? So what type of effects would texting have on a student's relationship? As we read, we're going to focus on that question. We're also going to focus on question number 2. Question number 2 says, what is sleep texting? So we have to go back into the text and identify what exactly the phrase sleep texting is. That means that when we read, we'll be looking for the definition of the word or phrase sleep texting. What does this article say sleep texting is? All right, I will read the first paragraph for you and with you. And as we read, we will focus on these two questions. When I finish reading, you will then complete the independent part of this task, which is answering questions 3, 4, and 5 using the modeled example that I'm preparing for you now. So let's get started. We will begin on our first page of this article, and we will read the paragraphs. As we read, we will focus again on our two questions, keeping those questions in mind as we read. Let's begin. It says, Kenny Alarcon is 16. He often texts with friends all night. You get an urge, says the Bronx, New York teen. When I get a text, I'm itching to respond to it, even if I want to sleep. Francesca Garcia is a high school senior from Providence, Rhode Island. We asked how many texts she sent and received each day. I don't know, maybe 1,000, she said. It's too many to count. Teens are texting more than ever before. See page 24 for a chart with teen texting statistics. What does the word statistics mean? Yes, statistics are a number or a set of numbers that represents or presents information. And in this text, they say that there's a chart on page 24 with teen texting statistics. Let's continue reading. Some experts say that all that texting could cause problems. So in this first excerpt, we learn about two teens that give their experiment or give their relationship with texting. We learn about Kenny and we learn about Francesca. And so that could give us some insight to what effect might too much texting have on student relationships. We'll have to continue reading. Let's look at our next subheading. It says teens in trouble. Some say that students might not learn correct grammar and spelling if most of their writing is in text messages. Also, more time texting means less time talking with others in person. Experts say that could hurt friendships and family ties. Plus, texting and using social media takes up time that could be used for studying, exercising, or just having fun. I'm going to stop here because I feel as though I've found sufficient and strong evidence to support question number 1. Let's look at our question and our text side by side. Question number 1 says, what effect might too much texting have on student relationships? Now, we previously said that student relationships could involve family, peers, and friends. Well, in the subheading, Teens in Trouble, they talk about how experts say that could hurt, too much texting could hurt friendships and family ties. So we have found sufficient evidence. Friends and family ties could be hurt with too much texting. That's one effect. Another effect is that social media, too much time spent on social media and not enough face-to-face talking could also be another effect on student relationships. So I need to write that down on my sheet. Now I'm writing because I'm modeling, but when you get ready to answer questions 3, 4, and 5, you will be typing in your response. All right, so for number 1, one effect is that, well, let's underline first because that will help me as I'm writing and also help you as you're typing if you highlight your answer and then you can go back to your Google Doc and put in your response. Okay, so one of my answers is that one effect is that too much texting, experts say that could hurt friendships and family ties. All right. They also say that too much time texting means less time talking to others in person. Those are the 2 effects that I would like to add to question number 1 as effects that it has on student relationships. So let's go back to our text evidence chart. All right. One effect is that too much time texting means less time talking with others. That's an effect. Another effect is that it could hurt friendships and families. As you can see, as I read, I first thought about the question that was being asked, the effect of too much texting on student relationships, and I found 2 pieces of evidence under the subheading Teens in Trouble. After that, I underlined my evidence so that I could transfer it to my Cite Your Evidence chart. We will do the same thing as we center our attention on question number 2, which is, what is sleep texting? Remember, as we read, we have to consider what the text is saying about the phrase sleep texting, or how the text is defining the word or phrase sleep texting. Let's continue reading. All right, we left off with the next paragraph that begins with Dr. Elizabeth. Dr. Elizabeth Dowdle is a professor. She works at Villanova University in Pennsylvania. She says that many people expect to be able to access anyone at any time. Access means to reach or get in touch with. So this professor is saying that because of text messages, we should be able to get in touch with people at any time. Let's continue reading. They also expect to be reached at all times. It's very appealing, especially to a middle school or high school student, she says. The problem is there's no downtime, and people need downtime, especially for sleep. In our next subheading, it is titled Sleep Texting. I'm going to stop here but not to write anything. But I'm thinking aloud how our question number 2 is asking us, what is sleep texting? So to me, the subheading is giving me a clue that my answer may be in the paragraph that follow. Let's continue reading. It begins with, both Francesca and Kenny told us that they wake up at night to text. Kenny even sleeps with his phone under his pillow. How many of you do that? How many of us sleep with our phones under our pillows? Let's continue. Dr. Dowdle says, it's common for teens to lose sleep because of texts. Sometimes teens even send texts filled with nonsense words when they don't wake up all the way. She calls this trend sleep texting. So I'm going to stop here because Dr. Dowdle has now defined what the phrase sleep texting means. And so we will cite our evidence by underlining what the text explicitly states, and then we would transfer that evidence to our cite your evidence chart. All right. According to Dr. Dowdle in the article, she says that teens' sleep is being interrupted by text messages, and that they send text messages filled with nonsense when they do not wake up all the way. And she calls that sleep texting. So, according to the article, sleep texting is when a teen's sleep is being interrupted. And I apologize, I did not underline my evidence first, so let's go back and do that. She says that they lose sleep because of text. Sometimes teens even send texts with nonsense words when they don't wake up all the way. And that trend is sleep texting. So remember to always, if you can, highlight or underline your evidence first so that you can transfer it or use that evidence to write your answer. All right? So she says that sleep texting is when teens send text filled with nonsense words when they don't wake up all the way. Okay, and so based upon our reading, we have defined what the phrase sleep texting means, and Dr. Dowdle from this article defined what it exactly meant. Let's continue reading. In the next paragraph, it says, why is sleep texting a problem? Adolescents need a solid 8, 10, or even 11 hours of sleep to really function and to think clearly, says Dowdle. She adds that teens who don't sleep enough may have trouble in school. They may become angry or depressed. The article defines the word depressed as feeling very sad for a long period of time. I'm sure that we can all relate to maybe feeling angry or depressed if we don't get enough sleep, or we become frustrated at school when we haven't received the proper sleep. So we can definitely relate to this article. How many of us can relate to sleep texting? Have you ever sent a text message that was sent with nonsense words because you were half asleep and half awake? All right, let's continue reading. It says lost sleep, and we'll have to go to the next page, can also lead to weight gain. That's because people turn to junk food for quick energy when they are tired. I have concluded reading the subtitle Sleep Texting. In our next activity, you will be answering questions 3, 4, and 5 as you read the subtitles, the 48-hour challenge, and the results. In these two subtitles, you will find the answers to questions 3, 4, and 5. On your Google Doc, you will first highlight your textual evidence that you find for each question, and then you will transfer what you highlighted in your own words to the text evidence chart. Let's begin.